So to bring it back to what we're talking about, this conversation on the way, page 253, let's go back to that. The final type of conversation, because there were two prior ones that he addresses, akin to listening, is a form of mutual exploration. Mutual exploration. So when you think about that, you're charting an unknown course with another person. Now I want to jump ahead a little bit because he starts to explain it a little bit better. The people involved in such a conversation must be discussing ideas they genuinely use to structure their perceptions and guide their actions and words. They must be existentially involved with their philosophy. That is, they must be living it, not merely believing or understanding it. Living it versus believing or understanding. It's a very different thing. A common thing where people will misuse the term of understand. For the existentialists in the room, the ontic versus the ontological. If somebody says, oh, it's been a tough day for me, my cat got hit by a car, and I say I understand. Well, I don't. I don't have a cat, and I've never had a cat that got hit by a car. So it's the wrong term. Now, let's say I had a cat that got hit by a car last week, and someone says to me, it's been a bad day for me, my cat got hit by a car. And I say to them, hey man, I understand. In that situation, I understand. There's a difference. Understanding in the context in which I bring it up is a fully fleshed out knowledge based on living embodiment of the thought. So that's what we're discussing when we're saying they must be existentially involved with their philosophy. When you're having this third type, this in order of priority, this highest form of communication, you have to be the living embodiment of the things that you say. Now, in private, everyone is not confident. Everyone is fearful. Everyone is scared. Everyone doesn't know what to do next, what to say next, what to feel next, what to think next. They sort of just make it up as they go along. But to be successful with a career and a family, you have to create the notion and the perception that you know what you're doing at all times, or at least enough times to where people will follow you. Because if no one follows you, well, then you're following other people, and for a lot of people, that's an uncomfortable feeling. Many people will chase the desire and the urge to have people follow them. And it's a great responsibility, and it's not something that everybody is cut out for. You have to do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of change, hard change, deep diving, to be the type of person that is deserved of followers. And a lot of the people that we follow are for the wrong reasons. You know when you're following somebody with a solid moral compass, an ethical compass, someone that has their followers' best interests above their own. That type of person is, in my belief, is willing to expose their flaws because they've addressed it and they're not afraid of their flaws. They're willing to dive deep in the muck with someone else. The muck of, I don't understand. I don't understand something. To say I don't understand something with someone is to put yourself in a position of vulnerability. And to come out on the other side, there has to be an element of trust there that you're going to make it out through the other side. If you go up to a stranger and you tell them you're having an awful day and you think about, you wanted to jump off a building, let's say, that person has no connection to you and is probably going to feel uncomfortable and is probably going to try to move away from the conversation. Unless you catch a soul that is caring and compassionate and wants to do something to help you. When you expose yourself, you're showing an element of vulnerability and trust. Giving that up to another person puts yourself in a position where you are exposed. Doing that in a conversation, to bring this full circle, when I was working at my previous job and working with kids that anger and aggression were common daily activities, and I would present the notion that I didn't know what to do next, it allowed the, let's say young adult, child, young adult, teen, preteen, whatever, to take charge momentarily. Now in these situations, these kids were getting to aggression because they were not being listened to. I remember vividly my teen years and feeling not listened to. I hated the phrase "because I said so." I hated the notion of "because we're older and we know more." Even if it's true, it's so condescending in a fast way to shut someone mentally off, to where they just go into their, yep, all right, sounds good, their catchphrases, their "I'm not listening." You have to treat everyone as an equal, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of intelligence or lack thereof, perception of intelligence, understanding or lack of understanding of subject material. Treat everyone as equal. And that requires some alternating, because you're going to take turns. Now, in a subject like this, philosophy, something I studied in college, this book I know well enough for the purposes of discussing it. Now, if I were to talk to somebody else about this, I'm going to lose them, because unless they're passionate about the material, listening in an intent way, and have a high level of ability regarding their capacity for ad hoc learning, I'm going to lose them. So what do you do in a situation like that? Do you just, if you're a teacher, do you teach to the smartest kid in the room or the kid that's not listening? I don't want to say the dumbest kid in the room. It's just the kid that's not listening or the one that's listening intently. Well, I think there's a mistake made there. When you teach to the quote-unquote smartest kid in the room, you're going to lose somebody. Now, if you teach to the quote-unquote kid who's not listening, the dumb one, you're going to lose someone. No matter what you do, you lose someone. So you really shouldn't, in my mind, build a syllabus geared towards either. You want to be able to freely float with the classroom. You want to be able to... Now, when I say classroom, I don't necessarily mean this is just for teachers. It's just my frame of reference, the room. Anytime you're speaking with other people, you might find in a group of 3 people, let's say, you're talking to 2 of them, right? Because there's 3 people. And you start to engage with one of them, and one of them seems less and less engaged. Now, there might be a thought in your mind that that person doesn't care or is not interested or doesn't know the material. But it could also be your fault. Maybe there was not enough eye contact and too much in the other direction, or lack thereof. Maybe you intimidated one person over the other. There are a lot of things that go on, and if you start to imply and create value judgments, oh, this person doesn't like me, they're not listening because they don't care, that's where you're going to find yourself tumbling down a rabbit hole towards an extreme. And extremes are a recipe for disaster. You want to be able to move with the scenario, the circumstances. So, in regards to the material, moving with the material. Now, let's just say I've lost somebody in the video, right? Now, the beauty of a video is you can go back and watch, and I'm sure there's going to be points where it seems like I'm getting from one point to almost a dead end. And it's both true and untrue at the same time. One of the things I've learned working with 50-plus students for an hour at a time, one-on-one, is that's a good thing. The last thing that I want to do, and the last thing that I do from experience, having learned, is create the notion that I have an hour-long lesson or a half-hour-long video, however long this is turning out to be. By doing that, you create a top-down mentality of, regardless of your input, I got to where I wanted to go all along. See, that's my point. That's what I was trying to say. Like, that's what you would say to the other person if they were trying to participate. You would steer their thoughts back into your own lesson, because you're trying to encourage them to participate, but to them it'll feel like they're not a participant at all, because they're not moving the needle. So there is something inherently off about making these videos without another person, another participant. And that's why there will be periods where it seems like I've gotten to a conversational dead end. But what I've found is, in my experience, having done this multiple years, multiple students, multiple hours a day, day in, day out, I would consider myself as much of an expert as an expert could be on this style of conversation.